I think we might move on a bit from violence, which is obviously a subject we could
Yes, I get anguish, but it was a part of my life. Yeah. I mean, I was probably no more than a lot of people, but I saw a lot of violence. I worked in the meatworks. Yes, there were times between 1:45 and 1 o'clock when I had to stop my lunch early and go up and start what they call the killing chains, and the beef would come up, and I would be the guy who does that and press a button and out would roll the beast onto the killing floor, the floor down there. And so, and I wasn't enjoying that, but I felt this need. I said, but we eat meat, I've got to face this. And it was where you could earn terrific money, you see, in the meatworks if you were in your school holidays, etc. It was... That mattered to me, and terrific lot of people worked there. Wonderful men, honest, no-nonsense blokes. Sometimes I look back with fondness on those men compared to the men I've worked with in the media, I'd say.
Well, we aren't asking which ones. Michael, as a boy, I'm going to read a description that you wrote of yourself as a boy. A dirty, ugly, naughty, stupid, smelly, wicked, horrible, hateful, twisted, disgusting, silly little boy. So where did you get this from? Was this your parents, your teachers, all adults?
It wasn't really my parents, but it was the order of the day a bit in the 1950s when I went to school. And there was an old rhyme we'd all remember. What are little boys made of? Sticks and stones and puppy dogs' tails. What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and all things nice. Now this does a terrible disservice to both sides of the gender thing, but so yes, this was how we got a lot of teachers humiliated as a way of keeping order. They also belted us, and I forgive them all in a way. So there was a sort of a shame about being a naughty little boy, I guess. And it's not done as much now, I hope. It seems to me it's not done.
And you were accused of sexual misconduct under a prickle bush.
Where else but under a prickle bush, yeah. Yes, there was an unfortunate incident, which I've written now, and it's always kind of affected me all my life, of being falsely accused. I was accused, myself and a friend, Brian, were accused, we were only about 8 or something, 9, of a girl in our class said we had done this thing with her in the prickle bush in the quarry after school, and we didn't know what it was, or we were too young to know, and there was a terrible... this was major stuff. This was an inquisition in the school that went on for a week, and I couldn't tell my mother how I stood accused, and I'd go home and I felt ashamed. There was something sexual, or even that word wasn't used. Sexual wasn't a word I knew, I don't think. It was rudies or whatever we used, the word was. Until finally the police said, the headmaster said, if you don't confess, we're bringing the police in, and the police are going to come the next day. And at which point the poor unfortunate girl broke down, and she had been up to some sort of something with some older boys from another school, and the most innocent boys in the class had to be dobbed in. I don't know. It's been it was interesting. It's some human psychology there I see played out again and again and again in human affairs.
The cartoon I always remember of yours, and it's a very long time ago now, it was the one of the boy who has his teddy bear taken away and pulled apart by the bully. Yeah. And then you see all these people wandering through the streets of Melbourne carrying their broken teddy bears. And that stayed with me forever, that one.
Yes, the early injuries, of course, are very... they cause us much wonder. And that loss of innocence or the hurt, etc. And that led me into the problem of the creche cartoon I did, which some people think I should regret, but I don't regret. And it's that fascination.
Friends who have not yet forgiven you for that, and their children are grown up now.
Yes, well, I'm sure if I sat down and talked to her, we'd all hug and make up and be friends again. But no, it was something I felt very strongly about. I was very interested in what happens to the infant and between the mother and the infant in that early time, and I just wanted to open the question up. And yes, I hurt people, it seems.
Do you think, Michael, I'm wondering if one of the reasons why there are such strong reactions for and against your work is that people identify with you at some level. They think you are speaking for them. And if suddenly they discover that you have an idea that's not the same as theirs, they feel a sense of betrayal. Do you think something like that happens?
Yes, I have heard that. We had a letters editor on The Age, David Bernstein, who I really, he was a nice fellow. And he said to me about this anger from the Jewish community, he said, look, you don't understand. He said, David had been editor of the Jewish News at one point. He said, the Jewish community in Melbourne have thought you are, they like you, generally you're well received in that community, and suddenly they feel betrayed. It's the incongruity, the seeming betrayal that I do not... I do recognise that you do Little Ducks and Mr. Curly for years, and suddenly you're sort of saying these political things which are hurtful, there's a problem.
But you still have to do it.
Well, you see, the cartoonist job, as Les Tanner used to say, as your father probably would have said, the cartoonist is the permanent voice of the opposition. You're always on the outside. You're not interested in sort of supporting the government's war effort. You're interested in what it's like on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I should have said, actually, one reason why I'm definitely on Michael's side is that my father was Arthur Horner, who drew for many years for both British and Australian newspapers, including The Age. So I'm automatically a fan of cartoonists. It's in my blood.
Yes, it was. Yes, a nice. I had many lovely It was great to be able to talk to Arthur when he came back to this country. Yeah, and it was at The Age. Yeah.
I thought we might talk a bit about the role of the artist, which sounds very solemn, but actually, if we've got time, we might just do a little read here, because you've written about Picasso here, and I wonder if you could just read a little bit of your Picasso piece. I'll just see if I can find it in the book. I should have marked
While you're
here.
Finding it, I'll just say something about the role of the artist.
Please do.
Because it's just something that's worth saying, that it was very helpful to me when I found this idea that the artist must express what is repressed, you see, and I find this very helpful. And what is repressed is sometimes pain, sometimes it's joy. We repress our joyous life, eros, whatever it is, whatever is repressed in ourselves or in our culture or in the media. You're speaking for the ones who aren't getting a voice, who are being squashed, whoever they be, regardless of their religion or culture. You're interested in the repressed, the ones who are losing. The ones who are losing is, maybe it derives from an ancient Christian idea, the blessed are the poor of spirit, the humble, the wretched of the earth have a wisdom. The dominant ones have all the voice. The wretched of the earth sometimes have a very beautiful wisdom that belongs. Yeah, here we are, Picasso and the Bull. Well, Picasso show came to town, and I love the way art is turned into a great product, and it's all good fun. So there was this show at the Melbourne Gallery. Is that my phone? No. There is a telephone, isn't it? I've kept my phone on in case there's a fire alert at home. I don't know what I can do about it at this distance, but maybe I can ring someone and tell them to go and save my house. Picasso and the Bull. Picasso is in town with one of his weeping women in tow. Picasso is the art world's answer to Elvis and the Rolling Stones, all rolled into one. He's a hot and horny beast, a rampaging muscular bull with a thick neck, a lavishly pink meaty tongue, and a massive Mediterranean penis, which has a paintbrush lashed onto it with cruel straps of Spanish leather. He has many, many women, all of whom he abuses and humiliates. Mesmerised by his dark Latin powers, they gratefully submit to his art, his appetites, and the experiments he conducts in the bowels of his chateau in the south of France. For their troubles, he makes them cry. And to rub salt into their wounds, he paints pictures of them looking all disfigured and feeling sorry for themselves. What a man. Everyone trembles when Picasso, the wild old faun, comes romping and swaggering into town in his amazing voodoo trousers. He is such a stylish and arrogant genius. There are large posters of him slapped up all over the city. Picasso, the macho man. He looms like a giant over everything, a classical minotaur whose large pendulous testicles, complete with cleverly fitted castanets, hang out of his bathing costume like two great rustic cheeses casting their hypnotic spell on matadors and innocent bystanders. Have we gone far enough?
I think that'll do.
Thank you. And I do like the work of Picasso. I love flicking through the Picasso books and contemplating his pictures.
Let's ask you, there's a couple of references in this book to Bill Henson. I thought that's a place where two of your principles come into conflict, isn't it? One is the idea of the freedom of the artist, and the other is the idea of the protection of the innocent.
Yes.
And it seems to me, if anything, you come down against the freedom of the artist. Would you say that was right?
Yes, I'm trying to think whether I've put it just in those terms of freedom or not. I mean, there are observances every artist makes. I can't make art out of a bit of human flesh or something like that. That would be seen as appalling and immoral, and yet it could be done. I mean, there is an artist in Germany who was advertising to find someone to die on stage in a gallery, to die there with people watching, and one as a sort of an art moment. And you have to ask, you have to wonder about that. I think in the case of Henson, I think there was clearly a case about consent, and which doesn't seem to be terribly complicated in my mind. That if you start using, well, I needn't spell it out, but if you use the bodies of children to make photographs, many of which are kind of sexually loaded, let's not be coy, they are. I think there's an issue. The point was there was no real debate. There was a lot of yelling, and there wasn't an intelligent discussion of this. Everyone sort of kept blocking it and yelling and saying, oh, he's being censored. I mean, what's wrong with being censored? You can fight it out in a court. You can sort it out. I've been censored. I've been in court 3 times for obscenity. It's the sky doesn't fall in, and it's part of the process. But I think, I think Henson is hugely elevated beyond his value. I don't much care for his work. I feel a bit queasy. I look at it and I think, it's kind of corny. It sort of seems to replicate all the old things that have been done everywhere else. I can't find much originality. And I find the art world, look, I love artists, I love art, I love the impulse towards art, but it's so full of pretension and conceit and disgraceful qualities which no one seems to question. I don't sit very easily in the art world and the people in it, a lot of the people in it. It's got this hallowed kind of atmosphere granted to it, which it doesn't deserve.
You don't even believe in putting your own work in for awards, do you?
No, I don't. But that's just my personal little thing. I don't. I reckon anything that's judged by a committee can't be very good. and I think it's like the papers saying, oh, look at the firefighter heroes, they're heroes, look at the heroes. And you think, don't stop that, don't do that to these guys. They're just doing what many people will do. You shouldn't make heroes out of people. They're doing their work, they're doing what they can do. And the firefighters have a wonderful tradition. As many times it's been put to the volunteer firefighters, should they receive compensation for the government for time spent? They never, 99.9% of them say, no, absolutely not. There can be no compensation, there can be no this hero stuff. It's really important to preserve the integrity of the whole organisation not to do that. And I think awards are no good for journalists and for, for cartoonists. That's my view, but I don't want to be a Puritan and stuff. It says I'm not comfortable with awards. They say nothing always. I'm for Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye, who went to the nightclub in New York. He was depressed and alone, and there Ernie, the piano player, was playing, and all the phonies, as he said, I love his use of the word phonies, were all applauding Ernie, the piano player, and Holden Caulfield says, oh, if I was Ernie, I'd lock myself in a cupboard and play in there. He said, people always applaud the wrong things. For some reason, there's a bit of truth in that too. I mean, they applaud the right things, but gee, they often go on. And that's what I find in the art world, astonishing kind of hysterias about certain things and breathlessness, and it's rather sickening. And that's why I did this poem once. Artists leave the world of art, pack your goodies on a cart, duck out through some tiny hole, slip away and save your soul. True art, I'm a Taoist, I suppose, true art does not look like art. And Bill Henson seems to be trying so hard to look like art for so long. Sorry to say that, Bill. But, I'm here just saying what's on my mind. I wouldn't go on a campaign against Bill. Some people like Bill.
What about your own personal limits? Is there anything that you wouldn't draw or you wouldn't write?
What would not? Yeah, lots of stuff now. But once upon a time there wasn't. No, and I do have. I look back on my old work and I see my children looking at it and I sort of squirm a bit. And there are some, grubby things and sort of... But I guess you'd say it's just digging up what's in the mind and what's in the culture and these grubby little things. I can't help it, but I'm a living, breathing, walking encyclopedia of dirty jokes that I heard in Footscray when I was a boy, and they stay with you. Now, how I can't get rid of them. So there's all these funny things that the mind does, but I don't linger there too long, but I accept them. I say, oh, well, I heard this thing, and sometimes I'll be out at a function, whatever a function is, but... and there's a conversation, and suddenly my mind will go to a joke that I heard when I was 12 because the people's conversation, and then I must get rid of it, I must divulge it. And so that reminds me of a story. So these are old folk tales and things.
You're still a naughty little boy then?
Well, I hope so, but not, a bit naughty, a bit cheeky, wanting always to put a little sparkle in the room.
And now would you please join me in thanking Michael Leunig.
I just must thank you for your attention. I really thank you, and it's been such a beautiful relief to come out of that hot bush where I've been stuck at home for 3 weeks in the heat, and here I sit with all these intelligent faces, and it's such it's really there's a word, I'm not good with words, but
you read a whole book of them.
There's that feeling of relief and which I need so dearly, so thank you for giving that to me very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jane.